Welcome to the Masculine Revolution, hosted by Jeremy Brown and myself, Murphy G. This is the first episode of 2024, so Happy New Year. Happy to be here, excited. This is episode number 37. Jeremy, you kind of want to take us into the topic this morning?
Yeah, man. I'm excited for this new year. We'll see what it holds for us. So you and I had this conversation the other day about consistency, and so I'm gonna kind of do a restart. But you've had a little bit more time to think about it too, so we might get a little bit more in depth. But why do you think consistency is an elusive characteristic?
It gets hard. It's I know for myself, the mundane or like the same routine every day can sometimes start to feel unrewarding. You know what I mean? Like if you take the 10,000 foot view and you step back and you're like, you know, I've accomplished this or I've been able to manage this because of the consistency, then you know you're not going to lose heart as much. But in the day to day or like in that like right here in your face, it gets hard to do the same thing. You kind of want that excitement or something like that, or switch it up or whatever.
Yeah. Do you think that's a cultural thing or a human condition?
I think it's a human condition because I feel like we're created in God's image and He's creative. You know, He's creative. So you know, for us, I feel like we're always looking for something to build or whatever, to expand on, expansion, you know. So I think it's a cultural thing for sure.
Yeah.
And a human condition, but I think it's both.
One and the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Do you think that what do you think contributes to doing something consistently over and over and over again to equal mundane or boring?
Well, let's see. I mean, I think it just. I'm sorry. Ask the question one more time.
So do you think, or what can? Let me say it like this: what contributes to the feeling of doing something consistent in a manner of just over and over and over and over? Why does that equate to? In your mind, being mundane or boring or not fresh?
I think just the repetition of something over and over and over again, just that part of it, of just doing it over and over again, it can get like, I think it can just feel like that, like on certain days, you know, like maybe let's say you've been working out, you know, hard, right, and then you start to see some results. Well, you might feel like that routine's starting to get, you know what I mean? Like I feel good about where I'm at. And so, you know, it'd be easy to skip today or whatever, you know what I mean? And so I think it's just like you can kind of lose sight of what the goal is or something like that. Yeah. Because in the moment you feel like I'm kind of hitting that or whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe. So
you think really kind of like the behavior that leads you to the conclusion of this is mundane is losing sight of like goals or long-term goals?
Yeah, or overestimating how much you're hitting that goal already.
Okay.
You know, you can feel like I'm crushing it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I think I mean, I know for myself, like I can do really good with a diet and I'll be like, you know, I'm doing really good, you know, I deserve those donuts. Or, you know what I'm saying? And it's like it's a lie, but I'm just saying it's like in the moment you justify why you want to break away from that or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think. Yeah.
So do you think that growth can occur inside being consistent?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean that is the way to grow, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how do you think, like, when Jesus calls us to live in a particular way, you think there's consistency required?
For sure.
But yet, we're not robots, right?
We're not robots. That's
and
right.
We're not going to be perfect.
Nope.
So how do you get over that in your mind as far as that hurdle of, but you're striving for consistency?
Yeah. So, well, spiritual life would be a lot different to me than like working out or anything like that. Just because
explain that.
Because it's all about perspective. You know what I'm saying? Like with the working out goal, I know I'm working out to get into healthier shape, to feel better, all that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
With the spiritual life, it's like the things that those muscles that I'm using in the spiritual life when I'm studying and all that, like I'm hitting at something, but to be honest, I don't know exactly what that is, other than I know that God wants to use me and for me to have a fulfilled life. And so I know that following his way is the way, but it's like in every single moment, and at the end of the day, God's plans never change. And so for me, I feel like even if I'm not 100% today, he'll still use that. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not going to stop his plan. You know what I mean? So I've given my life to him, and so I belong to him on my good days and on my bad days. But as far as like the grand master plan of what God's weaving, I can't call that, right? So it's harder for me to say, you know, because like God can use your good or your bad. So, you know, and he uses it all for his glory. So it's like it's hard for me to call exactly. And I can't be perfect every day, you know. I don't think that that's attainable. I just don't.
I agree. Yeah. So you think a big piece of that is just trusting as far as inside the spiritual side of things.
I think a lot of times people you can have a bad day and then it snowball into just getting off the path completely by being too hard on yourself. You know, we are supposed to be like Jesus, but like perfection is not, you know, that I just don't think that that's the goal. You know what I mean? Because if perfection was the goal, then grace and mercy wouldn't be so abundant, right? And that's my you know, opinion or whatever. But so like the spiritual life's a lot different than trying to hit with like physical and stuff, because there's like mile markers that I can see, and there is fruit from your spiritual life, but not in the same ways. You know what I mean? That I could like chart on a calendar, or something. Yeah.
So do you think that the characteristics between the physical and the spiritual, as far as consistency goes, are the same or different?
Ask that one more time. I'm sorry.
So do you think that the characteristics like of being consistent? So like like an example, you said working out, like, and you do it for, let's say, 60 days, and you really start seeing some changes in your body because of the work you've been putting it in. So that is used for more motivation or discipline to sit there and be like, I want to continue to do this because I'm seeing something.
Right.
But on the spiritual side, you may not see the result as clear and evidently in 60 days.
Yeah.
Right? But is the principles of that consistency / discipline the same in both areas of your life?
Yeah. I mean, it should be. I mean, you definitely have the same characteristics. I mean, you gotta work for it. You know what I mean? I mean, walking, living your life for Christ and like literally trying to die to yourself every day that's an incredible task to take on. You know what I mean? I think it's a lot easier to wake up and do some push-ups every day than to, you know, consciously die to self every day and try to live in that.
Yeah, it's definitely more obtainable in a like basic way, you know, versus dying to yourself on a daily basis.
Yeah, is
like it takes an incredible amount of mental strength to just stay focused on that. Yeah, you know. But I think that at the end of the day, that the underlying principles that drive the way our minds work are the same.
I would agree with that.
And how you can begin to sharpen that edge with physical to get and learn more knowledge to grow spiritually as well. And I think that it's a great tool to use, to do just that. But at the same time, trust in the bigger picture and trust in Jesus is a whole different factor, in my opinion, where when you're sitting there and you're in the physical, you have the control and you have the choice to fall off the wagon with your diet and throw in the towel and let it go to crap, or you continue on the path of being disciplined in a physical way, and you get to see the result based on your direct choice. I think that's the same in the spiritual side of our lives, but it's not as evident because you have to trust Jesus in the bigger picture.
Right.
And say, all right, I'm going to dedicate myself to living these principles that he teaches, not necessarily seeing the results in 60 days, because you might be coming from a mess that you've made a whole bunch of wrong decisions or bad decisions or however you want to phrase it, that have put you in undesirable circumstances.
Right. And
you got to battle out of it, and so it takes time to turn that ship, and it's the transformation side.
Yeah.
And so I think that there's some secret sauce there in the fact that it's the same behaviors but in a different way.
Yeah.
And I think that one reason why consistency is kind of an elusive characteristic with humanity is that we lose sight of the long-term vision, and we also don't take time to detach, to pay attention to the bigger picture, because we tend to, if we're not conscious about it, of not doing that, we tend to just view life through how it affects us, which is extremely like just microscopic in the bigger scheme. Because think about how many daggum people there are in the world. Right?
Yeah.
And we're just one. I'm just one individual, which is tiny compared to the bigger scheme. And so it's like when you start to go down that mindset of how what circumstances in my life and how they're affecting me, you're losing sight of the broader thing. What do you think are some tools that help you detach and take a step back to look at the bigger picture so that it helps staying disciplined on the path of long-term living?
Yeah. Perspective is a huge thing. So, for myself, I have plenty of reminders of where I've come from, as far as, things that I've been through or whatever. So it's like knowing where I've been, and I don't want to go there again. So, that's a huge driving factor of it gives the edge. But I think, you just gotta have to gain perspective through studying, reading, hearing other people. It's when I listened to this guy from I think he's from Iraq or something, and he was talking about 5 years old he was shining shoes. You know what I mean? And it's like when I think about the responsibilities that my son has at 5, or he's about to be 5, and it's like that's not the same reality. Now, it doesn't mean I need to go make my son go shine somebody's shoes, but it's just it puts things in perspective sometimes when you feel like maybe, hey, am I being too hard, or is this too, you know what I mean? And it's like you hear other upbringings or whatever, and it's like, we have to keep perspective, because no matter how good things we got, it's like you have to remember how others live, or you know what I'm saying. And so keeping that proper perspective, whether it be diet or whatever, you know, I mean, I just know for myself, as I started working out and trying to eat better and all that, I felt better. So why would I want to return back to that? Mm-hmm. And so for me, it's always, I mean, I've had to learn the hard way with a bunch of stuff. So it's like my scars are my reminder, you know. I remember the pain. I know how that felt. And so that serves in the front of my mind for sure, you know. Mm-hmm. What about you?
I think, you know, here recently, I think one of the largest tools that I've been using is writing stuff down. Writing the day and just writing my thoughts throughout the day, or what successes or challenges I experienced and what was the thought process during those. And what's wild is I honestly don't go back and read them very often, but just articulating that thought process makes you realize, or makes me realize, it's like, okay, like look how much is orchestrated within just a single day.
Yeah.
Of events and relationships with others, and what other decisions were made by others, and whether that was in line with what I personally desired or wasn't personally desired. Like, and it's I mean, it's insane to think about how many parts and pieces are working together for just one day. And then as you're articulating that and as you're thinking through it, to where it's not just thought in your head, but you're writing it so that, you know, it can be communicated, not to necessarily anybody, but just you're just communicating it. It processes for me a little bit different, to where it's like, all right, well, it broadens my view. And so it's been a pretty cool tool. You know, I wouldn't say that I'm perfect. It's not like I'm doing it, like there's days I miss, you know, but I am super regimented in a lot of other areas of my life. And so I'm just like, you know, if it gets forgotten, it's forgotten, and I'm not going to stress over it. You know, I'm not going to be like, oh, I didn't write today, you know. But if I do, which I'm trying to do more consistently on a daily basis, it does help incredible amount to be able to detach. And occasionally I'll go back and read it. This past, whole Christmas break or whatever, we were traveling a little bit, and so I had it with me. And so I was flipping back on a plane, just kind of reading through, and it's pretty incredible to see where, if you actually are documenting it, just like if, you know, in business, if you have a verbal conversation, you know, and then 3 months pass, and then you recircle up with the person that you have the verbal conversation with, both parties are like, I think I said this, and I think you said this. And then the other person's like, well, I think you said this, and I think I said this.
Right.
And so you orchestrate it in an email, though, you can refer back to it and say, this is the conversation. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's the same thing with journaling your thoughts. Is all of a sudden 3 months ago, I'm looking at something and I'm like, man, this is my thought process with this, and these were the challenges that I'm having, and I'm having less of challenges with that because I've been focused and working on developing those reactions or thought processes or whatever it may be. So it's been a pretty cool experience, you know. And you hear people, you know, give advice on doing that and stuff like that. And for me, you know, up until the last probably, I don't know, 10 years, I was really never really a massive reader or anything. And so it was never a priority of mine to even begin to, like, I'm going to write my day down, you know.
Yeah.
It just didn't fit into my thoughts at all. But now it's like, it's an incredible tool, and it's super simple, and it really doesn't take that long. You know, I mean, 15 minutes, you know, and you can write out your entire day. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that's something that I've been using probably over the on and off, probably for the last year and a half.
Yeah.
That I've seen contribute to, some progress and some growth. But I think that the more that you focus on discipline, at first, if you're completely undisciplined and you start just adding a little bit of discipline in your life, and there's consistency starts showing up, you'll see these major results.
Yeah.
And then the more and more that becomes a habit of how you live your life, it's just like a professional athlete. Like, you got your studs in high school, they go to college, and a chunk of them get weeded out as far as in collegiate sports.
Right.
But then you have this other small percentage of folks that are studs in college, and then you get up to, like, let's just take football for example. Then you get up to professional football,
right.
And in the overall population, it's like this microscopic percentage of people, right? But these people are just fine-tuning their techniques and their skills to the highest level, and so I think that's the same thing with living a disciplined life. Like, you start off just kind of generic and big, and you take these steps of growth through fine-tuning those skills. And then as time goes on, you should be getting to the point where you're like a professional, where it's like you're making small tweaks, and they're not even really like making these massive of big differences in your life, but it is small incremental, changes, and that makes you like that much better,
Yeah.
It's like I think it was. I don't know who it was. I don't want to misquote it, but it's like the 1% rule, where like I want to make myself better 1% per day.
Yeah.
And then 5 years pass by, and all of a sudden you've taken an enormous amount of steps in developing yourself. Just 1% a day.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's what was on my mind, was like, I think a lot of people struggle with consistency because they struggle with scaling how to go about it. They misunderstand, feeling passionate or motivated with, setting a goal, and it's not the same. Because you can get, you can watch Jocko do a workout and be like, you know what, I'm gonna go do that, and you can try. But if you're going from, sediment to trying to keep up with him or someone like David Goggins or something like that, it's like, dude, you're going to feel defeated, because you're going to be like, I can't do that. And even like people taking on new things, and it's like, just pace it out. You know what I'm saying? Don't be. Yeah. And that's definitely where like the culture comes in, because, the capitalist mindset tells us we've always got to push for more, need more, and it's got to happen like that, and it's like building consistency takes time. And I think you like start small and then you build on it. But I think a lot of people just, want to come out guns blazing. They want to tackle the whole world in 2 days, and then, and it's like, it just doesn't happen that way. You know what I mean? And even if you are able to sustain an intense thing right off the bat, it won't last very long, because you're going to get burned out. You know what I mean? Because you can't just – I mean, in my opinion, from my experience, let me just say that, my experience, anytime I've tried to do something drastic, and like major turn right now, and I'm going to crush this forever, it doesn't last very long. But when I take it a little bit at a time, like with diet or anything like that, it's like start with just like drinking more water. And then it's like no sodas and only drinking water. You know what I mean? So it's like, it just like, you just add things to it. And then a year from now, you're like, oh, I haven't had a soda in a year, or whatever. So to me, it's just, it's setting that pace of something that you can actually achieve and being realistic about your goal. That's what it comes down to. When I take the time to prepare my mind to be realistic about what I can do, what I can't do, my time, what this task is going to actually require of me. When I'm realistic about that stuff and I make my mind up, then I can achieve that goal. But when it's just I'm motivated at the moment, and that video I watched just got me pumped up. Nah, man, that's not gonna last. That's just for me personally. So for me, it's like I have to take those small little bitty steps and build on that and get my confidence up of like, all right, I can do this. So that's just how it is for me.
So how do you fit that? How do you fit what you just said into your relationship with Jesus?
Same way, a little bit at a time. I mean, dude, you can get the Bible is I've said this many a times, and I always say this: the Bible is intimidating if you're trying to read the whole thing from Genesis to Revelations in a week and understand it all. That book is so incredible. There's nothing like it. You can a man could spend his whole life dedicated to one book, you know what I mean, and still not get every little crumb in there. You know what I'm saying? And it's written to where it's plain enough for a child to understand. That is hard to comprehend. There's nothing like that. You know what I mean? And so to me, it's again, keeping the perspective of like, I'm not going to understand it all, and I can only be who God wants Murphy to be. You know what I mean? I can't be Jocko. I can't be Jeremy. I can't be a Levi. I can't be nobody else but who I am. And I have to take time to figure out who I am. You know what I mean? And so that takes time. And the spiritual life is a roller coaster, man, because you'll gain an understanding, and then God will put that test on you, and you'll feel like, well, I was doing good. Why is this bad thing happening to you? But it's like we go through these trials because that's how we up the weight. You know what I mean? And so, but while you're going through that, that's extremely hard to keep on your mind. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I know that these trials, I know that you chastise the one that you love. I understand all of that. But in the moment, you're like, all right, just tell me what I'm supposed to learn from this. You know what I mean? And so with the spiritual life, it's extremely hard because you can feel like, hey, man, I was serving. I'm doing all the things, God, and it's like, yeah, go read Job. So, it's like you have to keep it in perspective that like the spiritual life is totally different from the physical, because the physical, the more I put in, the more comfortable I get in my own skin, with life, with walking, with running.
Confidence.
Yes. With everything. It's like everything becomes easier as I'm doing that. Where in the spiritual, it's like the more I understand, the harder this life has come. Because like even right now, it's like I just released a song and it's like I'm struggling with compassion. You know what I mean? And that's really what it comes down to. And why is that? It's because God's working on me with something, and this is something I have to pull out of that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's hard. It's hard to feel like that. You know what I mean? Because it's like nobody wants to feel frustrated or like lacking compassion, but it's like when you're honest and real, and you're like, there's something you're trying to teach me from that. You know what I mean? And that's the difference. I can go do push-ups, and as soon as you get done, you feel your chest all tight, Or you can read the Bible and feel pumped up, and then it's like, what am I supposed to do with this? You know what I mean? And so it's like, it's a very much of like trusting. Faith is hard, man. That's the hardest part. Is like, there's not a button to push. There's not a thing to check. You know what I mean? It's just like, you got to wait and see. You know what I mean? And the fruit of your decisions is what happens. You know what I mean? And so, to me, it's like, that's the hardest part about the more consistent you are with your spiritual life, the more trials you're going to get, which is why it's scary.
Yeah, I think that recognizing, like having the ability to recognize the frustration or doubt or lack of faith or whatever verbiage you want to put to it in the moment, and apply what you just said as far as, I know, like you said, compassion. I'm having a struggle with having compassion, and I know God's working on me through that for a reason, but the reason I don't know yet. But if you recognize that in the moment,
Yeah.
Like in the moment when you're just like having that time where you're just like ranting, not necessarily out loud, but even in your own head where you're just like, everything's getting on my nerves, or everyone's getting on my nerves. Why are people acting this way? But you can circle back to what you just said in that moment and go, you know what? Calm down.
Yeah.
Let me take a step back, literally take a breath, like, I know that this is happening for a reason. And the reason is I'm going to reap the reward, because Jesus says that promise that he works for the good in everything, right? Job's situation, you referenced losing everything, literally everything. And him having all those conversations, if you read the book of Job, he has doubt, he has frustration, he has all those things. But at the end of the day, he circles back up and says, all right, it's up to you and you alone, and I trust you. If you start focusing on that internal conversation more consistently in those particular circumstances that are negative, that's a spiritual workout. Yeah. Same thing as jumping down and hitting some push-ups. And over time, you'll question it less as far as to the level of the frustration that you were experiencing in the past. Take, for example, I'll give you a personal example. If you rewind 15 years ago, running a business, and there's ups and downs constantly. They never turn off as far as from a monetary perspective. You'll have excess funds and you feel good about everything. We're doing great. And then crap breaks. You got to pay for it all. All of a sudden your little savings dwindles. And then all of a sudden clients are not paying on time. They're late. Bills are still coming in. You guys still pay stuff, and you're like, okay, this is getting close. Like, all right, God, I'm trusting you. I've been focusing on being a good steward with our finances, and and then all of a sudden you pay to fix a bunch of stuff or whatever. You miss something on a project, and you got to eat it, and all that kind of stuff. And I had these internal thoughts of like. I'm getting nervous, and you start having worries and anxiousness, about how is it going to be next month. And then the next month shows up, and it might not be as much as I would hope, but we still make it through it. And so then do I continue that same worry, anxious behavior, or do I begin to go, okay, look at the resume, even when it's in doubt, and even when I am nervous about something, God has still shown up and provided.
Yeah.
No matter what. And so 15 years ago, it would consume my mind, where it was just I'm stressing over, I'm losing sleep over it. I'm thinking about it at night, how am I going to pull out of this hole sooner than later, And I'm not saying I'm perfect at it now, but now when those moments show up, and they still show up, and they will forever show up, because we will forever struggle until God makes it good and everything's back to perfect. But now when it happens, I just look up and I'm like, all right, I don't know how you're going to do it, but you're going to do it.
Right.
Because I trust you, But that's happened over a 15-year span. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect on it. I'm not saying that there's zero worry ever, but there's a heck of a lot less, Yeah. But when I think about that, I think about that in a whole lot of different areas in my life, as far as just relationally or my own mental health side of things. It's all in that discipline of submitting yourself to trust, and being aware that you're going through that process. I think a lot of issues that we see lack of consistency with is because people aren't even paying attention to the fact that they are transforming.
Yeah.
Or they have an opportunity to transform. and become more like Jesus. And because you miss that fact, then you just are reacting. You're not in a proactive posture. You're in a reactive posture. And I think you have to start, like we always say in past conversations, you got to analyze and think through, hey, this is where how I'm acting. I think the one reason that self-discipline is listed in the fruits of the Spirit is because at the end of the day, God's got it, and we're not going to interfere with His goal and his mission. But we have an opportunity to participate in it and with it and play a role in a part of it, as a part of it. But to do that, you have to make a choice, and you have to make a choice daily to do that, which takes self-discipline. I don't think it's dependent on me, but if I choose not to, I'm going to miss an opportunity. And the discipline side of things, I think a lot of the times people hear discipline and they think regimented or the same thing over and over. And people are like, I don't want to get up early every day. I want to have a day I sleep in and rest. And, that just sounds awful to just never have a break,
Yeah. I mean, part of it's like I was filling out my calendar for January, and it's just like, I think there's like 2 days maybe with nothing on it. and so like discipline can be the same way, where it's like, well, where's my downtime at, And it's like, it's just one of them things where if you take somebody who's living a sediment lifestyle and I show them David Goggin and I say, this is discipline, they're going to be like, no, thank you. And I understand that, but that's why I say, it's got to be, I think the pace thing is a huge ordeal. You know what I mean? Like, if you're in the military, it's a different intensity because you're training for your life. You know what I mean? Where it's like, if you're like, just a regular civilian type person where, hey, it's like, hey, you don't have to be that intense about workouts. You don't have to be. You can, by all means. But, like, there's other ways to get your wins and to gain that confidence without, trying to go destroy yourself. And, you know what I mean? And so that's all I'm saying is just it gets hard sometimes because what do? Right? We say, I want to be a basketball player. All right, I'm going to be LeBron. I'm going to be a swimmer. I'm going to be Michael Phelps. What we do is always put someone on a pedestal and say, I'm going to be. And it's like, that's just, again, another sign that we're created to worship, something, right? So for us, it's God. But I'm just saying, it's like, that's what we do is, we put something up there to say this is going to be our goal. And all I'm saying is you might have the wrong thing on the pedestal. You may be asking, what is realistic for me?
Yeah, I think being truthful with yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
Just being honest with yourself and saying, all right, this is where I'm at, and this is what I'm going to take steps towards, and it's going to be in a balanced way.
Right.
So that you can actually begin to attain it. But the more that you do that, the larger your steps get over time. Yeah.
And let me just say, I don't think there's anything wrong with putting seeing someone's success and wanting to model that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think necessarily that's idolizing somebody. But I'm just saying sometimes somebody's success story, we want to be our success story. And then when we put effort in and our results aren't the same as that story that we wanted to be like, it can wind up taking you off the path by killing your confidence when it's your mark is not to be that. But to model that, I understand, but it's like, that's why I just say it's always, hey, create your goals for what you want and be realistic with who you are. It's cool to be engaged and what do you call it, inspired by other people that are on the same path. I think that's great, but just be realistic with with what you are.
Yeah.
You know, who you are.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a huge piece. You know, I think that the spiritual side can be or can seem elusive, but I think that's the farthest from the truth. It's not elusive.
Yeah.
I think that Jesus meets me where I'm at, you know,
For sure.
and says, "Hey, I'm going to walk with you." It's our expectations,
Yeah,
that get in the way.
it's our mindset for sure.
It's our mindset that gets in the way of growth. And I think that, like, you have to recognize, like, what's the goal of submitting and obeying how Jesus tells us to live. It's to emulate him, which at the end of the day brings the gospel to others by the way that we live life, right? And that's what he wants. You know, that's why he said, "Hey, I got to go because I'm going to send you the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit can be everywhere where I'm in human form at the moment, and I can't be everywhere."
Yeah.
And so deuces, after resurrection, he's gone, you know? And so I think that pursuit of building a relationship takes commitment and consistency. And, you know, I think there's a lot of different elements that work into that building that relationship. With, like, for examples, you know, short list of it is like prayer, you know, singing songs, reading the Bible, meeting with others, and being reminded of the mission that we're supposed to live our lives. Like, those are just some examples of how to develop that relationship. But are we doing that on a consistent basis? Or are we a believer in Jesus and are we just showing up on church on Sunday because that's what Christians do, show up on church on Sunday, you know? Is that the only piece of that I'm partaking in and getting to know somebody that I'm call my king?
Right.
You need to assess it. You know, you need to take a look at it and go, are you really striving after learning who Jesus is? You know, I mean, in the New Testament, it says pray without ceasing, which means that, like, well, how can you do that? How can you never stop praying? You know? And I think it's more of a posture in your mind of, as you live your everyday life, you're running the circumstances through a filter and asking God, how do you want me to handle this? Or, okay, this is frustrating me, and have the consciousness to stop for a second, take a deep breath and say, all right, in 5 weeks, am I going to be thinking about this moment? Because most of the time, when something doesn't go my way in a month, I don't remember it.
Right.
So why is it controlling me at the moment?
Yeah.
You know, my alarm doesn't go off. I'm late getting up, or later than I wanted to getting up. I go out to the truck, tick, 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 tick. It don't start.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, like, and I'm been guilty of it, you're just like, you know, what the heck, you know?
Yeah.
What does all this kind of stuff happen to me, you know? And it's just like, hold up, dude.
Yeah.
Like, you're acting like a fool over something you're not going to think about in a month.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you're going to get jumped off, you're going to get a new tire, or whatever it may be.
Right.
And life goes on, you know? But yet we submit ourselves to allow the circumstance to control us.
Yeah.
Rather than Jesus, his teachings are, look, dedicate to yourself to the longest game possible, which is me, an eternity with me. And all of a sudden, everything else in this little short lifespan that we have an opportunity and get to live doesn't seem as impactful as you think it does in the moment. And having that awareness and that consciousness to be able to have that process of thought in the circumstance That's the goal, and then take it a step further and say, have the courage to act on it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Which takes discipline, meaning there's moments where you're like, well, you know what? I want to be mad right now because this is really ticking me off.
Right.
Or this is really frustrating me, or this person continues to do something totally different than what we discussed. Why are we continuing to be in this circumstance together? What else do I need to do to make a change?
Right.
It's like, well, take a step back. Detach yourself and say, this is part of the transformation. This is a part of the longer game. And so how do I need to react? And in the compassion side of things, patience.
Yeah.
And patience is an extremely difficult characteristic to practice on a daily basis.
Yeah. Yeah, it's frustrating because, you hit it with the expectations. It's like I said, working out. It's like I do this curl, I expect to see my bicep get bigger, and then it's like you do other things in life where you feel like you're taking the right steps or whatever, and you're like, it just doesn't seem like you're doing anything or like having any effect at all. So it's like it gets those things where it's all, and I've had to realize that it's like I don't know everything. And I couldn't possibly know what guys got going on, you know what I mean? But it's like in the moment while you're dealing with it, it's just frustrating because you're like, I want to know what I'm doing or why I'm feeling this way, or like I'm trying to find the source or whatever. And it just takes time. And it's like you said, it's patience, and it just gets hard to flex that muscle while you're in the middle of it, for sure.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good, man. So switching gears, this is the first podcast in 2024. Some people might be listening for the first time, because a friend told them about it or whatever. Explain a little bit on Masculine Revolution is the name of the podcast, right?
For sure.
It is a part of a MELO production. Explain MELO.
MELO is just it's a lifestyle brand and / we want to produce content, and my belief is that hey, if you're Christian, everything you do is Christian. You don't I don't understand the labels, but we just want to make quality content that helps people. MELO stands for motivate, equip, lead, and own, and we just want to exemplify those things. We feel like that's our kind of spin on how we feel like we can change the world as men. Although MELO is not just for men, it's like I said, it's a production company, so we're going to be doing a lot more stuff. Looking forward to this year, man. There's a lot of things coming down the pipeline, and hopefully we can get guys together to affect the community in a positive way, and just get back to making quality stuff that's wholesome and that people can enjoy. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's as far as the production side. That's really what the aim is. Just platform some of the guys that we're in community with that are already doing things. If you're here in Noonan, we do a Bible and breakfast meeting at Redneck Gourmet in downtown Noonan at 7 a.m. on Fridays. And there's also Mr. Rich DeWeese with the Men of the Uncommon Kingdom. You can go check him out. Chad, he's doing More Music Foundation. So just plenty of guys, man, plenty of things to attach to get involved with. And I know there's some races and marathons and stuff like that coming up that people are going to be training for. So MELO is just really, hey, man, we got to be a community, pull together, be able to do things together, and enjoy life together. And this is just our version of that.
Yeah. What do you think? What would you say with the question of what's the purpose of trying to unite this particular lifestyle?
Yeah, I mean that's for one, it's I'm a creative person, and so creating is something that I love to do, and so just trying to use my personal gift. That's as far as what I'm doing. I mean, I'm just trying to use my personal gifts to further the kingdom in a unique way, to create community and to help, just take that step, because sometimes it's hard to find that community at your church, because you go there on Sunday and you already got plans for after lunch and stuff. And so this is just a way for us to band together and to create real relationships and community outside of that. Let me see. I'm sorry. What was the other question you asked me?
Yeah, just the purpose of bringing men together.
Yeah, because that's what we're supposed to do. I mean, that's you can look in the world right now and see there's just a lack of leadership, a lack of unity, a lack of people being able to hear other ideas and work together. And so we, instead of, being the people that slam our hands on the table and complain about everything, we just wanted to do something different, fill a void that we see in the ways that we can, nothing special, but just trying to use our gifts.
Yeah, I think for me, like the number one reason for the effort in bringing unity is to create a community.
Yeah.
And creating that community has multifaceted, results, where men, majority of the time, feel isolated, or they got to pull, they got to pull the weight. They got to pull myself up by my bootstraps, kind of mentality. And there's this pressure associated with it. And then if you don't necessarily succeed to the definition of what society tells us is successful, then, you feel like, you don't measure up, and I think that, that's a massive lie, because of that, the transformation that we were talking about with consistency, takes time, and you're at different places in your process. Everyone is of transformation. And so I think the hope is to pull men together and say, hey, you ain't alone.
Right.
And we can do this together, and you don't have to be out there, Lone Rangering it, trying to figure it out for yourself, because there's been men who have done it before us. There will be men after us that have done it, that will do it. But there's men here now, and gathering together, and being unified to live on that lifestyle, and be on the path that Jesus has called us to be, is living out what he's instructed us to live.
Yeah.
And so we're just creating an opportunity to be obedient, and it's up to you. You get to choose. But know that eventually there's going to be, a call.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
That's the long game.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, you can talk about wanting to make changes, and everybody has ideas and stuff like that. And this is just a place where we want to make those ideas a reality and put it out there, because, I mean, that's what community is all about. It's all of us together.
Yep.
So, MELO is really just a flag flying in the air for unity and community, among the men in our immediate community right now, and that's the hope.
Yep.
To engage with others. So, yeah, excited for the new year. Like I said, plenty of things going on. If you'd like to jump in, you can reach out to us at Masculine Revolution podcast on Facebook, Masculine Revolution at gmail.com. Until next time,
join the family.